2023 Orono City Council meeting. And I want all council members and presidents of council member Crosby this evening. We always start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I invite you to stand and kiss the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for that. Next on the agenda is the approval of agenda. There's no public hearings today, but we do have public comments. And on that approval of the agenda, we will approve all the consent items and with one vote. And I'll go through the consent items before we vote on it, so if there's something like that taken off, just raise your hand. So when would like to take a stab at consent tonight?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written, and I would also add number 22, which is the one-day fire department overage.
I'd like to pull a couple of consent tonight.
Okay, which ones are you looking for?
Number 13, number 14, and number 15.
And what was that last one?
13, 14, or 15?
13, 14, 15.
Okay, so what we have on the consent agenda tonight is number 1, City Council meeting minutes of April 4th, 2023. Number 2, the City Council work session minutes of April 24th, 23. Number 3, claims and bills. Number 4, approval of 2023 garbage hauler licenses. Number 5, approval of rental license. Number 6, authorization to promote Tony Whitkey, Police Deputy Chief. Number 7, authorization to promote Ryan Spencer, Police Sergeant. Number 8, authorization to accept resignation of Hunter Bachman, part-time CSO cadet. Number 9, authorization to accept resignation of Chris Fisher, resolution number 7360. Thank you, Chris, for all your service, for all the years that you've been here. You've been a fabulous deputy chief to work with. Number 10, approval of wage adjustment for LELS Local 40. Number 11 is the 2023 Street Maintenance Project 23-1 award. Number 12 is emergency water main bypass and new water main installation at the Coffee Bridge. 13, 14, and 15 we'll take off and put those under the community development report. We'll do those in order.
My apologies, number 14 is not due to be called as 13 and 15.
Okay, so 13 and 15 we will pull off and do them in order. Number 14 is LA 23-8, David Charles Designs, David Weber, 1340 Vine Place. Variances resolution number 7362. Number 16 is LA 23-15, Swanson Homes, 3017 North Shore Drive, preliminary plat, resolution number 7365. Number 17 is 23-16, Carolina Cano-Conica, 2160 Wayzata Boulevard West, conditional use permit, resolution number 7366. Number 18 is appointment of Parks and Planning Commissioners, resolution number 7367. Congratulations, Michael Huddy, as our new Park Commission member. And resolution number 7368 for Ted Schultz, our new Planning Commission alternate. I don't know if I see you, Ted, here tonight. And 19 is appointment of 2023 seasonal employees V4. Any of those items anybody would like to have taken off consent tonight? Oh, I'm sorry, yes, so we added number 22, which is 2022 Long Lake Fire Department overage. Any other comments there from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, that'll take us to our community development report, and we'll start with number 13, which is LA 23-2, 1449 and 1475 Shoreline Drive Vacation, resolution number 7361.
So, good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight we have an application which is regarding vacating portions of unused right-of-way abutting 1449 and 1475 Shoreline Drive, terminating at the OHW of Lake Minnetonka. Excuse me. In 2020, Hennepin County began a road project to realign County Road 15 or Shoreline Drive, which including reconstructing the Tanager Bridge. As part of that project, land from abutting properties adjacent to these right-of-ways was acquired to the north on this side. With the realignment of that bridge, portions of the right-of-way were no longer needed to support the road improvements. And in 2020, the city council passed a resolution supporting vacating any unused or unnecessary right-of-way that was remnant of that project. I've highlighted those remnants in color here, just to the south of the new right-of-way spacing. Hennepin County completed that road project in 2020 and transferred those deeds to the city of Orono, and we are the governing body to process that vacation, to complete that vacation process. So in front of you tonight is that request. I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any clarification.
So in layman's terms, what that really means is those properties can't get moved to where they're been committed to or anything else before they go to us first. That's the process. It has to go to us and then we actually move them to where they're supposed to go, where we're committed to.
Yep, I believe so.
Okay. And I know Councilman Benson had a question on this.
It's just, I just wanted clarification, you provided it. So it's important to me when I see, vacations of right away to just understand and be able to hear your explanation. So thank you for that. And it sounds like this was something that was in the works for several years and it's essentially exchanging or giving back land that was given up during that process of that construction.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. That's all I need. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the drafted approval resolution LA 23-000002, 1449 and 1475 Shoreline Drive vacation resolution number 7361.
Okay, motion? Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes 4-0. Okay, that'll bring us to number 15, which is LA 23-19, 8S Designs on behalf of William and Marta Mellon, 1940 Shadewood Road, variances, resolution number 7363. Corner Channel House.
Thank you. The subject property is situated on the north side of Coffee Channel and is almost entirely within the 75-foot lake setback. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 2-story home on the existing footprint location. Because the home and property are non-conforming, the following variances are requested. Side yard setback variance on the north side to permit a 2.7-foot setback from the side lot line where a 7.5-foot setback is required. 75-foot lake setback variance. Due to the majority of the property being located in the 75-foot setback, this variance is necessary. An average lakeshore setback variance to permit a 1.4-foot encroachment into the average lakeshore setback consistent with the existing home on the property. Hardcover variances to permit hardcover in the 75-foot setback and for the total site hardcover to exceed 25%. Proposed is 28.9% where 27.9% exists and 25% is normally allowed, but in the 75-foot setback, we don't allow any hardcover. And a lot area variance to redevelop the substandard lot. The staff report listed lot width, that was an error. In April, the Planning Commission reviewed this application. Following their public hearing, the Planning Commission voted 6-0 on a motion to approve the variances. They added a recommendation that the existing mature trees on the property be fenced or protected to the extent possible during construction. Comments from the public were received and were included in your packets for the record. Staff recommends approval. Council should move to adopt the resolution in the packet. I have house plans and I have a volume comparison exhibit if you'd like to see that additional information. The homeowner is here, but I'm not sure the applicant is here tonight.
Councilman Benson.
My question is in regards to the yellow portion there, which I believe is the proposed walkway
Yes.
to be built. And it's a fairly simple question, I believe. Is there any accommodation or could that area, or does the applicant plan on using a pervious substance given that that walkway will be in the 75-foot
They have not indicated that, but that can be incorporated in the approval. Typically, within the 75-foot setback, there is no credit for using pervious materials, so they didn't propose that.
The idea was simply to think about, just extra runoff or whatnot, as opposed to an impervious substance.
Understood.
That was my only feedback, I thought.
I know we've had issues in the past, just over the years, just talking about impervious versus pervious materials, and over time that they become impervious because they fill up with sand or salt or just debris that falls from the
They
sky.
do require maintenance.
Right, it just
One of the
requires
concerns.
maintenance, so there's no guarantee that what you put in today is gonna be actually what happens, is really corresponding to the ground again tomorrow. But I understand the question. I didn't know if anybody else had any questions for Melanie or if the applicant was here. Or the homeowner. So you're not the applicant, you're just,
The homeowner,
okay.
but Councilmember, we're happy to do that. That's
Well,
all.
okay. It was a question, and again, I'm learning as I go, but it was, given that this area is already in that zone, the setback, so close to the lake shore, it was simply a question about what the building materials or the intention were about that piece.
Perfect. We'll have Alethea reach out to you as far as what you'd like to see. No problem with that. So,
Well, that's all I have, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so I want to make a motion with that. You want to make a motion with that in there?
I'm sorry?
You want to make a motion with adding that in the impervious materials?
Oh, sure. Let's see, so a motion to approve LA 23-000019. AS Designs on behalf of William and Marta Mellon. 1940 Shadywood Road, variances resolution number 7363. And how would you like me to phrase that, with an addition of
Adding
or pervious substance to that,
The yellow
to
shape.
the yellow shape or the walkway area?
So just the new portion.
Correct.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no, that passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, that'll bring us to number 20, which is LA 22-58. Matt Tierney, Sherwood Properties, 2305 Bayview Place, PID 17-117-23-44-32, address unassigned sketch plan.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting non-binding feedback on this request to rearrange the lot lines of the properties in order to create two more uniformly shaped lots. The proposed change will result in 2305 Bayview Place, shown as the green lot, gaining land, and the unaddressed property, the red lot, losing land. The change results in the creation of a new nonconformity, and because of the new nonconformity, the boundary line adjustment does not qualify for an administrative approval without prior approval of a variance to address this nonconformity. Staff finds the existing configuration to be awkward with the L-shaped lot wrapping around the 2305 property. Both properties are currently non-conforming, although the proposed configuration includes the need for variances on each lot, lot width for the red lot, and lot width and front yard setback for the green lot. The orientation proposed may make more sense based on the increased buildable width for the red lot. It increases from 60 feet to 74 feet and results in a more standard lot shape for both lots. At the April meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed this application, provided general support to create the more usable lots. They discussed the potential challenges with topography and grading on the lots, particularly with the red lot. Planning Commission directed the applicant to apply for lot area and lot width variances in conjunction with an administrative subdivision exception to move the boundary lines rather than a plat. Staff recommends directing the applicant to apply for the variances and an administrative subdivision exception. Further, staff recommends a conceptual building footprint and proposed grading plan be provided for the red lot as part of the variance application. While no formal action is required tonight, council is asked to provide non-binding feedback regarding the proposal and indicating what can be supported and also identify any challenges or variances to be addressed with a formal land use application. The boundary line changes could be a accomplished in one of two ways, as I stated before. Both do require submittal of a practical difficulty analysis as there are variances involved. The first is the variance application with the subdivision exception, or a preliminary plat, including the identified variances plus final plat. Council should discuss these options and provide the applicant with direction with their next steps. I don't think the applicant is here, but he may have sent a representative this evening. That's all I have for information.
Any questions from Melanie?
Melanie, if the first option, you do a variance, if the variance was granted, then you would do the
Yes,
administrative.
if the variance is granted, we can then proceed with a subdivision exception, which is the administrative boundary line adjustment. We could record those
So just to
line.
maybe help people understand what the difference between their administrative lot line rearrangement is something that, you know, the staff does, gets recorded with the county, you know, does all those things. A preliminary plat and final plat process to do this rearrangement is a pretty significant burden, in my opinion, because it's a planning commission for the preliminary plat, city council for the preliminary plat, then it goes back and does a final plat again with the staff, so, because it's, in my opinion, because it's two lots, if we're comfortable with this, you know, that first option seems more reasonable for two lots if we were gonna approve it.
So right now it's two lots. They're just gonna
Correct.
make it more reasonable. with the big weird-
And this is just a sketch of.
Yep, no
we're just
actions.
Asking what direction to take it, and then we'll have a chance to dive in deeper of the whole application, all the
Sure.
setbacks and everything. So,
Would that affect anything with the address or the driveway or the traffic in any way? That orientation being different?
As it's oriented currently, they could opt to have a driveway off of Navarre Lane. I think there is a drive or an access off of Bayview Place currently, but I know we've recently reconstructed Navarre Lane, repaved Navarre Lane. But there's no dictating which side they could access on for that L-shaped lot. They could choose either currently.
So either way, there's gonna be a driveway for each house regardless.
Yep, there's currently a driveway off of Bayview Place for the home on the green lot.
So the biggest difference is, and what we've tried to do over time is try and help people get stuff done in their lots as long as it kind of meets the codes. And what we don't do is divide lots to have a non-conforming, but what you've already got is two non-conforming lots, and we're just making them two more usable non-conforming lots, which seems reasonable on its face. Is
I don't have any other questions.
the applicant here want to have anything to say, or? You can state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jacob Conklin, 615 Green Avenue, Southeast Watertown, Minnesota. I'm here on behalf of Matthew Tierney. And his intentions are to possibly build a garage that's more suitable for that house with a driveway that's less steep on the green surrounding lot there, the green highlighted boundaries. And then also possibly build in the future on the red boundary lot and have the driveway on our lane.
So Matt Tierney owns both of them now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thanks. It seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, so it's just a sketch, so give the feedback, so my feedback would be as stated, to allow them to go through the variance process with the administrative lot line rearrangement. No, you agree that's a simple process?
That's what staff would recommend.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree too. Good, okay, well, there you go. You're on your way. Thanks. Okay, well, that'll bring us to number 21, which is LA 23-14 is Matt and Susan Johnson. And Matt is our city council member here who's gonna step down as the applicant for 1007 Wilders Trail Variance Resolution number 7364.
This application is for the to-be-created blue lot as shown. The applicant is proposing to redevelop the blue lot with a new single-family home. The undeveloped rights-of-way surrounding the properties were vacated in December of '22. The applicants have also applied for an administrative boundary line adjustment to subdivision exception to combine and rearrange the 3 PIDs, resulting in the layout shown with 2 lots. The change is currently in process with Hennepin County and is not yet reflected. The 3 existing PIDs will be combined to create 2 buildable lakeshore lots. The existing home at 1003 Wildhorse Trail on the red lot is planned to remain. The council should treat the lot configuration as existing for this analysis. The orientation of the adjacent lakeshore property to the north at 4455 West Branch Road and the home on the red lot result in the average lakeshore setback line bisecting the blue lot somewhat in the middle. The applicant is requesting an average lakeshore setback variance or waiver on the blue lot to allow construction of a new home up to the 75-foot lake setback. In April, the Planning Commission held a public hearing. Following the public hearing, the Commission voted 6-0 on a motion to approve the requested variance. No comments from the public were received on this application. Staff recommends approval conditioned upon the Hennepin County accepting the subdivision exception with the proposed lot line rearrangement, creating the blue and red lots. Tonight, the council should consider adopting resolution 7364. I can answer questions if you have any.
Okay, so basically what he's doing is he's combining a bunch of lots to make the red lot really big. And by doing that, the average lakeshore setback line moves backwards because where the lot is next to blue, that isn't combined yet, is a lakeshore lot. Right?
I guess I can say
Well, you've got another slide, if I remember right, that shows what the lakeshore, what the lots look like now before they combine.
okay, this one?
No, that they're combined there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, there it is, that shows you. Is that, right there is what it
This
is now.
isn't the current configuration.
Okay, but what he's gonna do is, because the red one is its own PID, right?
There are 3 PIDs currently. They're not arranged like this.
But the blue, it's affecting the blue PID. Because by leaving the lots like that, the average lakeshore setback line is very different.
Yes, so what's happening?
Maybe Matt can explain it better.
Currently, Mr. Mayor, this outlined in yellow.
Yep.
This is 1 PID, this pair is 2 PIDs, and this configuration is the 3rd PID. So just combining, and it's not really orderly, but just combining them into this new configuration is just losing a PID.
You're losing a PID and then the average lakeshore setback because that goes way back.
Because
This is
the,
where
yep, the
normally-
home on the red lot becomes into the picture for the measurement, correct?
Any other questions for staff, or otherwise we have the applicant up here as well?
So
I'm sorry.
really excited to talk. I'm not sure. I can only imagine what's coming your way. So by actually building or having less lots, it actually is lessening the ability to where the applicant can put the house, correct?
Yes, the home that's on the red lot as it's designed right now is not, a lakeshore lot, so that he's making that bringing that into the equation for the average lakeshore setback.
Okay.
Yeah, by combining them, yeah, it makes it a lakeshore lot, which is what is changing the average lakeshore setback.
True.
So he's basically getting penalized for combining properties essentially. And we've done this with Mooney Lake, where we had 8 or 9 or 10 houses in a very undulating lakeshore, where we established the building zones up front, because if you build one first or build one second, it impacted where you could build the other houses, and some of them would push way back, and you would almost make them non-buildable, so we had to set that up ahead of time, so you didn't have to worry about who built first, who built second. And then with the Dayton property, we did the same thing, because his house was, I don't know, 5 500 yards back or something, so we had to adjust those kind of things. And even just down the street here in Wildhurst, kind of right when you come off 19, you had those two properties that we had to adjust the building lot because of the same problem of the filled-in pond that came in,
Yep.
was still wetland. So we've done this a whole bunch of times to make sure that the building area makes sense based on the weird linear nature of the waterways that we have kind of going on there, so.
Correct.
So I have a few questions. Is the outline or footprint indicated there between the green line and the white line, is that where the building or the home is going to go?
For me,
Matt, you might answer that.
Yeah, so that is, so when we met with the architect, started putting some plans together and started placing it on the lot, well, then you gotta figure out where you can put it. So that is, that's a 75-foot setback. It's consistent with, if there was 3 lots, which was the other illustration, if I went to 3 lots, that's where the house would be. So you can see, if I changed it to 3 lots, the green line again is the 75-foot setback. The other lines that would be governing, which is the average lakeshore setback lines, would all be lakeward of the 75-foot.
So in that illustration, Melanie, could you change it back to the opposite, the other one? So in this illustration, is in the blue lot, which is the one that we're considering tonight, is that footprint where the home is going to be built? that we
Yes.
see? That's it. So my next question is, where are there building plans that we could take a look at as part of this application?
I didn't submit building plans.
Okay.
What are we here for?
And there typically wouldn't be building plans at this point, unless he's.
Just, I understand it's an application and then we have to go through the process of, how many days is it, Melanie?
we have a
What-
60-day timeline to review.
So once an application comes in, we as the city have to process that request within 60 days.
Once it's complete, yes.
Okay. And there's enough information as it stands in order to process this request? for
In
this
staff's opinion,
In
yes.
staff's opinion, okay. Here's what I'm gonna offer. So that's the exact footprint of where the home is to be built, but we don't have plans. Is that correct?
That's the proposal. Yeah, it's not the exact, but I mean, that's where our preliminary plans with our architect, we sat down and we were putting it on the lot, and we'll build the house to, conform the lot to where is it gonna be, is the question we're trying to get answered.
Okay. I think it's just, my comments on this would be, I think it's fair to say as a member of council, this application would get higher level of scrutiny than maybe a different one. And also regarding the right-of-way that was vacated last year, there's also a higher level of scrutiny. So my preference would be able to see building plans before approving this type of variance. That would be my thoughts on this. I don't have any other questions. I just prefer to see the building plans as part of this application for this adjustment or variance.
Well, my preference would be treated like every other resident, because now I'm on this side. I'm a resident. I should be treated as, I shouldn't be penalized.
If you're gonna be treated like every other resident, it would be behind that average lakeshore setback.
I'm just addressing that singular point, is, I just want to be treated.
You were given free land, free rights away, that not every other resident gets that.
Sir, can you please
I
hold
understand.
yourself?
Yeah, well, you know what, how about he not sit up there and lie?
So, Melanie, I understand that there's enough information to process this request. I think it's fair to say that when we're looking at granting a variance that is close to or right up to the 75-foot setback, from my perspective, it would be ideal for future planning to be able to see the plans of where this home is to be built, because a proposal is not the same thing as plans, or an idea or a sketch with an architect is not the same thing as understanding and not continuing where the building's gonna go.
Well, that would penalize anybody who comes forward, because what you're saying is you're gonna make them spend a whole bunch of money, which we've never done to anybody.
You do that all the
Sir,
time.
you are out of
My
line.
goodness.
Can you just pipe down for one?
I'm not out of line, you guys are.
You're out of order.
Out of order, that's correct.
So as a point of clarification, Melanie, we've never asked for building plans ahead of granting a variance.
We have, yes.
Okay.
We typically do, and depending upon the variance, it's more important to have those plans for a certain type of variance, for complete plans than another type of variance.
And I don't, again, and I'll say it again, I'm new to this process, but again, and we can go forward with this, that's fine. I don't have any other questions, that's my feedback, and that's the question I have regarding the building plans, that's it.
Well, I will say, when we did Mooney Lake, when we did Dayton's, when we did Wildhurst, nobody required plans, they had building envelopes.
Yep.
That's all they had, because you don't know who's building there. You don't know when you get into design what you find, or construction, or anything else, and it would penalize anybody to have to do that, which doesn't make any sense. We're trying to make things easier for people. And the average lakeshore setback line, when you go back to the other one, when it's 3 lots, is actually almost, I mean, it's in the water, basically, the average lakeshore setback line. So to say that, combine them, do less houses, and we're going to preserve all the way back to no closer than 75-foot setback, seems like an easy one based on all the other ones that we've done in the past.
Now, I agree that combining, understood that the lots are combined to decrease that idea of density in the area, that's not under debate, it's simply the idea of understanding where this home is to be built on that property with regard to that setback. So that's it, that's all I have.
Maybe just, something to add there is, that average lakeshore setback is more so for the preservation of the neighbors and then how it might impact them. That's my property. So these are in joint ownership. So, that's the other component of the average lakeshore setback, in the intent of it. And that's my property, and I'm fine with that house being there.
That's irrelevant.
So, I remember when we talked about this last time, the neighbor's big concern was they thought we were gonna build 18 houses or some large.
Yeah, it was 8, yeah, that way.
So I think, can you go back to the other slide with the 3? So that picture was helpful for me to understand, and actually, it's great for that area to know that you are doing 2, and then keeping the 1 house. So knowing that yellow line would come into play if you did more density, which is what we don't want to encourage in that area, there's a benefit. So, and I do remember seeing a lot of these historically where we look at the envelope versus full plan, so I'm comfortable with approving it.
Want to make a recommendation?
Yes, so I'm going to recommend approval conditioned upon Hennepin County accepting the proposed lot line rearrangements, which will create the blue and red lots, which is LA 23-00014, Matthew and Susan Johnson, 1007 Wildhurst Trail. Variance resolution number 7364, sorry, it's long.
Yeah, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
No, that passes 2-1.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Anything else from the community development report? Nope, no more, okay. That'll bring us to our finance report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and, slide in the presentation folder that I think Adam is going up. Created the slide on Friday and forgot to slide it in the folder on Friday, so we can slide it in there. So, here it is, this is the very familiar looking building permit revenue slide. And I'm happy to say we're a third of the way through the year. And if you look at the far right-hand corner, we're basically a third of the way through budget for building permit revenue. The good news about that is the first 3 months of the year, or first 4 actually, are the 4 slowest months of the year. So for us to be at 33% of budget already is a very good sign for that revenue line item on an annual basis. And that's all I have for that slide. If anyone has any questions about building permits, I'll forward them to Laura right back there. Otherwise, I do have a couple other updates. One is, a while ago, you guys approved us moving forward with the SIP protocol to replace our old copper lines. We hoped it would be done by now, but I believe it'll be done in the next week. We have it set up, we have it tested, we're just waiting for some firewall settings to be adjusted to allow it to have audio. So we could make a connection, but we couldn't hear anything. So that's just opening the right port on the firewall. And then an update on something that you guys might not be aware of. We're in the process of changing our domain from the lovely ci.orono.mn.us. Right now, we actually have our official federal government authorized domain name of oronomn.gov. So much shorter, much less dots. And we tested out Dave Klitsky, and my emails were set up under oronomn.gov today, and it works just fine. So you guys, within the next week, I believe, will be able to use your email address will still be your first initial, last name, but it'll be oronomn.gov instead of all the CIs.
So what does that do to all the other emails that come in?
If people still use your old email, it will automatically be forwarded to the new email. I would suggest that when you send emails then that maybe you put down under your signature block, if you have one of those, note saying, hey, or my email address has changed to, the new email address, but if people use the old one, it will automatically be forwarded to the new one. And then if they reply to one of them sent from the new email address, obviously it'll go to the new one. Eventually, that will extend to our website, where if someone puts in www.ci.orono, they will come to the city website, but in the future, they could just do oronomn.gov and go there. Part of that's being driven by the federal government. They're actually encouraging strongly municipalities and county governments and state governments to go to the .gov. There's a little more security in .gov right now. Anyone can go to a domain register and say, hey, I want, whatever, I want oronomn2.org, and they could register that. The federal government takes care of the .gov domain. It's CISA, which is, don't ask me what that stands for. I look it up and then I forget right away, but they actually confirm that we're an existing government, and like you contacted Adam, why is this group contacting me, wanting me to talk to me? That's part of the verification process that we are an official government. It's designed to give the public a more secure knowledge that it's a legit email, it's a legit website, because phishing has become a huge problem in the world. So this is an attempt to let people know that when they communicate with the .gov.
So do we have to do something different on our computers or our phones that we've already got all that stuff set up?
No, but it should be really seamless to the end user.
We just need new business cards.
Just we will change it under business cards. And that's all I have at the moment.
All right, any questions for Ryan?
I have a question, and it's probably related to what's coming up next year, the fire department report, but I'm wondering if you could address the issue with the bonding for the building, the bonding for the public works building, they included $3 million for fire, and where that currently is.
Sure. December of 2021, we sold $16 million of capital improvement bonds as part of the supplemental capital improvement plan that was approved as part of the bond sale. $13 million of that was designated as being for the new public works building, and $3 million of that was designated to be for the fire department. Right now, most of that money is still sitting in the 4M fund, but $3 million of it is definitely set aside for the fire department. And some of the tables that I believe are in the needs analysis that we just talked about, it shows the $3 million being for fire facilities.
So where is the overage then coming on the public works building? Where's that
Right
coming
now, we have one option that I think we're leaning towards would be to loan money from the utility funds, the water, sewer, and stormwater funds, to the construction fund. Part of the rationale for that is the water, sewer, and stormwater departments, and vehicles and equipment will be housed in that building. So it seems like there's a nexus there to have the loan be from those funds. And then, like all enterprise funds, they operate more as a business than a governmental fund would. So it would be right for interest to be paid back. And what I would suggest as we get forward and if we do loan that money between the funds, we would pick whatever the going interest rate is and charge the building fund or the operating, probably the general fund at that point, the interest on it.
Okay. So just for the purposes of the fire department, that $3 million.
That $3 million is still sitting there waiting for fire uses.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that'll bring us to our fire department needs assessment by Chief Van Allen.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor and Council, for your time tonight. I'll go through kind of the agenda item before us. The purpose is to answer council questions and receive initial input on the draft fire needs assessment from council, as well as establish a process moving forward for final kind of versions of this and decisions based off of it. In 2021, the city of Orono notified the city of Long Lake that we'd not be extending the fire service agreement. Following negotiations for the transfer of the existing fire department to Orono Control were unfruitful. In September 2022, the city council passed a resolution of intent to establish the Orono Fire Department. At the November 14th meeting, council appointed a new fire chief to build and then lead this new department. One of my primary duties prior to the stand-up of the department is to complete a needs assessment for the city of Orono's emergency services. At the February 13th meeting, council meeting, council directed staff to complete this by June 12th. Over the past several months, staff in consultation with the fire negotiating committee prepared the needs assessment. Staff's reviewed it with the city council at the work session tonight. A copy of that needs assessment is in the exhibits. So the timeline kind of moving forward as we look at this, we did tonight's council meeting. We would accept written questions on the draft needs via the city website from May 9th to the 18th from community members, and then we would put those into the packet and address those in the presentation on the council meeting on the 22nd. We would also take some written comments from the 22nd to June 7th timeframe. Probably get those in the packets also, and then at the June 12th meeting, look for kind of the final report, presentation, and the guidance on moving forward. So, before you is kind of a process for input from our residents or the community. As you can see, the timelines up there too. So, the process, at least from what kind of staff has kind of gone through with the negotiating committee, obviously establish a comment form on the city's website to facilitate these written comments received by the close of business, as we talked about for the May 22nd meeting. At that meeting, we would give opportunity to provide personal input to the city council, filling out some comment cards ahead of time. The mayor would then establish a time limit for that comment period at the 22nd meeting. Staff recommends about an hour. Staff would prepare the needs assessment public comment form. Residents wishing to speak at the council meeting can fill that out. Mayor then could use those forms to call residents up. The intent of the form to provide an order of the process. The written comments of the form will be available on the website until close of business on June 7th. Staff recommends proceeding with the fire department needs assessment. We would need some direction on the draft needs analysis, and we would be looking for some timeline adoption as paragraph 3 is listed for the public process in the fire needs assessment.
you'll notice some changes, so this is obviously why we're bringing this back. We wanted to make sure that there was a significant amount of time between when the assessment was shared and then also the updated presentation, because we know there's a lot of material in there. And giving residents time to, think about it, think about the questions they want to ask, and also giving them a few different ways to do that, because we know not everybody wants to come up to the mic and ask those questions. So basically, you've got the in-person meeting where people can come up and talk, but then there also would be 2 different virtual rounds that surround those meetings where we can take in questions. I think the one question I had for us on that is, once we get those questions from residents, are we going to, not are we, but is staff going to take those questions and kind of bucket them to the most common questions and feed them back here? What's the proposed process for that? Because I don't think it was clear in here.
Yeah, so our idea and the reason for having the deadlines for each of those written comment periods be in the week prior was so that we could take all those written comments, kind of synthesize them, trying to group them together maybe, if we see common themes, so that then we can put that in the summary of the council action for the 22nd, and then again, the same would be true for the 12th. So I guess the short answer, yes, the idea would be to try to group those, but also, they would be then easily included as an exhibit to the council action.
I have some questions, if everyone else is done. Yeah, I'm just wondering if you can articulate in the most general terms possible what needs to be fixed about our current system of fire service delivery.
Who are you directing that question to?
To you.
I'm sorry.
To you.
Absolutely. I think what really needs to be fixed about our current fire system is that we don't have a sustainable model for the future. That's the biggest thing right now. Whether it's capital, whether it's our firefighters, the paid-on-call model, response times, there's just kind of a list of things that need to be fixed. And I think we're in a better position to be able to lead that change.
Has that been the case for some time, that we have not had a sustainable model for the future? Has that been a reality for some time now, or is this new?
The paid-on-call model has been kind of one of those models that is going by the wayside as we move forward in today's yes.
Okay. And another question is, how many outside agencies, individuals, municipalities, fire chiefs, folks of the state, did you consult as part of this draft?
I couldn't venture to guess how many people that I talked to about.
They weren't, I didn't see that they're named, I saw some references, but I'm just wondering who in general, where the data was collected from.
The data, most of the data has been collected from the Long Lake Fire Department, because it is about the Long Lake Fire Department in the city of Orono. But I've sat down with the Minnetonka Fire Chief, the Chanhassen Fire Chief, the Excelsior Fire Chief, Plymouth Battalion Chiefs. I mean, just having conversations about if you were setting up a fire department, how would you set it up, and what would be your thought process moving forward, and what are the models that are sustainable, because they use models that are currently not just the pay-on-call models. So.
Did you ask any of those other fire chiefs if they are themselves starting up their own stand-up departments?
They all have their own departments.
They have their own. Did you consult with anyone who does not have their own?
I'm not sure the question. The
Shared
fire chief
model.
that doesn't have their own fire department, I'm sorry.
Yeah, have you consulted as part of this draft analysis with any municipalities that are currently a JPA or shared model?
The Excelsior Fire Chief.
Okay. And he gave thoughts on this?
These are all great questions, but what's in front of us is just approving the process about how we go through it. And, maybe the right time to ask questions after they actually give the presentation and present this information. We, just so everybody knows, we had a work session prior to this. We saw the draft of the presentation that we're going to get. Staff has solicited the council to ask questions in between that next time, give some feedback to that to add it in. And so I think for the purposes of what we're on, item number 23, we're just talking about approving the process to get the information out so we can all ask questions, be prepared to ask them, and hopefully you'll take the opportunity to actually ask him in advance some of these questions so he can integrate it into his presentation, so we have all those answers available at our next meeting. I think that's the intent of the process that's laid out here.
Yeah, I understand. The reason I'm asking that is mainly to understand over the next few weeks, what other direction I may indicate I would like to see more information gathered. Do you know what I'm saying? If you haven't already asked certain other cities for input or information, it's not clearly spelled out in here, that would be one of my questions, is who else you might be able to speak with, is what I'm getting at. So I'm trying to understand who you've spoken to put this together.
Yeah, I completely understand. So, if there's anybody that you want me to talk to, just please let me know.
We can add appendix of who was consulted if you like.
I think that's appropriate, because I know a lot of other people in other cities are struggling with the same issues, and I think understanding where you've been and where you think you're going, it matters who it is that you're consulting with, whether it be locally or on the state level. Oh, one other thing. Chief and Al, do you see a benefit to an open forum for discussing this issue with residents?
I think that's what the process is trying to do, absolutely.
Okay.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
I
no
don't,
kidding.
I don't see it. I see that there are periods of time, you know, a week here, 2 weeks there, where it's written comment or stuff on the website or whatnot. What I'm not seeing, at least in what's before me now, is an open forum. And
I don't think that's the purview of what the chief's job is to figure out if he needs a public forum.
That's right, you're the one denying
As
it.
city council, we have
You're the
made
one
same
denying it.
decisions, and that's our decision up here. It's inappropriate. I don't think, questions
Sure it is, he can give his opinion.
the question is just,
He needs to, that's not his purview to decide whether or not we have, how we go about the process. We've asked him to do a process. He's done the process.
So my hope would be is May 22nd, that would be when people should come up, ask their questions. But I would also expect residents to reach out in between and ask questions directly to any of us. And I would hope we would also reach out to staff and ask questions so they can be better prepared. So that is an open forum. I would say what we're doing here that I haven't seen in other cities is giving a longer period of time for this information to sit out there and for them to give feedback. So I'm comfortable with the plan because it's giving them multiple avenues. I hope the room is full of people May 22nd. There's lots of questions. I hope there's lots of questions before too, because that allows staff to do homework. So if you want other cities reached out to, you know, I think it's a little unfair to throw sometimes some of these questions at staff on the spot. I mean, we rave about how amazing they are, but then.
But they've also said at a work session, if you do have questions and things you want integrated, email them all the stuff you want to get answered.
sure, no,
That'll be your checklist over the next 2 weeks that they can do, because they've obviously got a plethora of information here already. And if they need more, or you'd like to see more, or have a question, I think that's the time to get that done. But right now, this is talking just about the process, like Councilmember Johnson says, of the process of doing our next meeting for the residents to hear what they.
my point, and I am not trying to in any way surprise you or put you on the spot here at all. The question is simply that while there are multiple avenues that are offered, or I guess I'll call it a patchwork of emails, questions, or comment cards and such, what is not being addressed here, and I believe what there's been an interest for is more of an open forum or a dedicated time that does not feel like it's regulated to 2 or 3 minutes during a regular council meeting, which gets long. So my question was just simply, do you see a benefit to that? And that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. It's just simply a question.
I see a
If you're
benefit
comfortable
to
with this.
getting comments from our citizens, which is what we're trying to do with this process, yes. Absolutely, Councilmember Benson.
Okay, do you see a difference in the type of communication that's laid out here versus an open forum? Is there any difference to that in your opinion?
Yeah, I think this one is better. You're actually giving the information ahead of time and people can prepare their questions and come ask them, rather than just hitting them with a presentation one night and making your decisions from there.
Okay, that's all I need to know about that, thank you.
All right, well, I think this is a great input process. Keep it reasonable in terms of writing the questions, thinking about them, keeping it orderly. So I'd make a motion to adopt the timeline at paragraph 3 in the public process at paragraph 4 for the fire needs assessment.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Further discussion?
Yeah, my thought is, my preference again is to see that what's been asked for and what was asked of me again tonight was an open forum rather than doing piecemeal input over a 1 month period about an issue we've been talking about as a city without formal input in a communal way for a couple of years now. I think to me, it feels like the least that a city could do for its citizens, given the impact, given the questions, given the confusion, given some of the rumors. I don't see a downside to that, so I would prefer that be a part of this timeline number 3, even if it means pushing out that June 22 meeting, May 22 meeting, even if it means pushing out things a little bit further. I think that would go a long way to instilling goodwill and a sense of understanding within the community, which from every reading I've done, and again, I'm no expert in fire, clear, consistent communication with the public is one of the key tenets of fire service and certainly changing fire service. So that would be my input on the timeline.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Well, that passes 3-1. Okay, we're moving on to anything else from the fire department, chief?
The ladder truck is back, it has new tires, and hopefully we can get it, wrapped here pretty quick with some new logos and stuff on it. We're working on a new logo for the fire department, utilizing Scott Spinks, who did some graphic design before he was a paramedic, so hopefully we can bring some of that stuff back, and those are the fun things to work on, so. That's about it for us.
All right, thanks. Someone's back. Next city attorney report.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I don't have any report at this time.
All right, we'll go over to Adam for our city administrator engineer report.
I don't have anything separate. We do have the approval of the work session draft agenda. The only change to that is for the May 22nd work session, looking at doing retaining wall discussion part 2, which is a continuation from the previous retaining wall discussion.
How much time do you think we need? An hour, or maybe half an hour suffice, or?
I think, based on kind of the beginnings of the questions we got last time, I think it would be best to plan for the whole hour.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the next work session draft agenda as proposed.
Second that?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, look, that passes 4-0. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, that'll bring us to our public comments. And this is an opportunity for the public to address the council. The council will not engage in discussion or take action on items presented at this time. However, the council may refer issues to staff for follow-up or consideration at a future meeting. Speakers should state their name and address at the podium before speaking. And if you can manage to not swear or personal text, that would be great too. Thanks.
Jim Elder, 195 South Brown Road, Orono. This report, this needs assessment, is a well-structured, well-researched document. I compliment Chief Manel on it. It has a lot in it, and it's a lot to unpack. However, it raises more questions than it answers, and answers is a word I have not heard in this discussion about the open forum. We're allowed to ask questions, but nobody has promised that they'll give us answers now. And I think that's an unfortunate structure. First of all, the first statement made, at least among the most significant core statements made by Chief Manel, is his hope that the negotiations and the impacts between Long Lake Lake and Orono can be resolved such that Orono becomes the owner of the fire station, or a new shared agreement is reached. And this is what you've all been working on and haven't made much of progress. And I think you're gonna have to hurry, because what you're about to do here is leave the dock without any estimates of the cost of this endeavor. There are large operating and capital costs here that you're not talking about. And just a rough estimate, my estimate, between 10 and $15 million. And I think you need to give us that information before you go making a decision in June to sally forth on this endeavor. And I think it's long overdue that you come forth and tell us, A, what's broken such that you have to do this, and why would we have to spend all this money? I think money has to be spent, but I do not like the fact that you're not giving it to us. There was a troubling statement in the needs assessment that Orono intends to, in the next few months, transfer the control of the Navarre fire area from Long Lake to Orono. You're already tearing apart the Long Lake Fire Department. Now, last week I was a little upset that Long Lake was going to sue you or threaten to sue you. Now I wonder if I was mistaken. Maybe in fact that's exactly what you're doing. You're destroying that fire department so that you can get this thing done. You're railroading. When we had coffee a few weeks ago, Mayor, I asked you if we were going to have an open, thorough forum to discuss this. And you said yes. And I said, how long would it take? You said, oh, in one session. I said, you won't get enough discussed in one session in this limited space with the number of people who want to hear about this.
Okay, thank you, Jim, I appreciate it.
All right.
Nancy Branningham, 3185 County Road 6. I have attended every meeting and work session of the Orono Council since December of 2022, and I have learned an awful lot. One of the first things I learned was that in 2022, Orono decided to end our contract for fire services with Long Lake. In November 2022, Long Lake held a public hearing to inform citizens about fire service issues. Mayor Walsh and Councilman Johnson were both in attendance as numerous Orono citizens stood up and expressed their hopes that Orono would do the same. On January 9th, 2023, I stood before this council and made the first of my 3 requests for a public hearing in Orono. Many others have also done that. Councilman Johnson responded to my request in January by saying he didn't think it was his job to inform citizens about what was going on. Rather, citizens should come to meetings and find out for themselves. I disagree with Mr. Johnson's understanding of his duties, but he was right about one thing. Citizens of Orono should come and see what's been happening at Orono council meetings. Yep. Here are some of the things I've learned since December. Number 1, the time for citizens' comments has been cut from 5 minutes to 3. Number 2, Mayor Walsh sent an offensive video to a local business owner. Every council meeting now ends with a deeply disturbing display of bad behavior by both parties. Citizens have requested that council take action for the sake of restoring peace. Council has shown no willingness to do so. Number 3, Councilman Richard Crosby has connections to the Proud Boys. Their leader was convicted of sedition last week for his role in soliciting and inciting violence against Congress on January 6, 2021 in order to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Number 4, this council has granted right-of-way vacations of city land to both Councilman Matt Johnson and Mr. Robert Erickson, a sitting member of the Planning Commission. 3 former mayors of Orono who were concerned about these transactions have requested that the Attorney General and the State Auditor investigate. Number 5, the City of Orono currently has multiple lawsuits against it and may soon face another for breach of our current fire services contract with Long Lake. Number 6, 8 former mayors of Long Lake and Orono are opposed to Orono's current course of action regarding fire services. They have notified Orono by letter that they believe this move is an expensive way to tamper with a public safety service that is not broken. Number 7, all the towns around us are working with their neighboring cities to form fire districts. Mayor Walsh feels Orono is big enough to go it alone. I sincerely hope that my fellow citizens will join me in paying attention to the actions of this council in the weeks and months ahead, especially but not exclusively to its actions regarding the provision of critical firefighting and other emergency services to Orono citizens. I hope council will reflect on what they can do to help heal now seriously strained relationships with our friends and neighbors, especially in Long Lake, and to restore trust between Orono Council and citizens that has been broken both by actions this council has taken and actions it has refused to take.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Henry Branningham, 3185 County Road 6. I sincerely hope that my fellow citizens will join us in paying attention to the actions of this council in the weeks and months ahead, especially but not exclusively to its actions regarding the provision of critical firefighting and other emergency services to our citizens. I hope council will reflect on what they can do to help heal now seriously strained relationships with our friends and neighbors, especially in Long Lake, and to restore trust between council and Orono citizens that has been broken, both by actions this council has taken and actions it has refused to take. And I will add that this process you just approved is not what's been requested. What are you afraid of?
Kim Carswell, 261 Signet Place. Let's just close our eyes for a minute and imagine it's 2025, and we're looking back at the legacy of this city council in Orono. What will we be thinking about the fire service and how it came about in 22 and 23? In fact, what will those fire services be? All our sister cities seem to be collaborating to provide the best all-around services they can. Playing to the strengths of each city, they will be learning from one another, complementing one another, and those cities will have the best and the most cost-effective fire services because they're following the best practices of the future state. While the communities that surround Orono continue to collaborate, they will watch Orono going in the opposite direction. Orono will have its own fire department and perhaps struggling to keep up with neighboring cities. The cost to taxpayers will perhaps be the highest, and yet the services might even be the lightest. We will be saying that no one thought this approach was a good idea at that time, and here we are today realizing that concern. The tone of this council will be remembered as one that you know what you're doing. We don't need citizen input. The community is not getting the full story. We're right in our singular approach. We just need Long Lake to capitulate to meet our needs. As the next generation looks back even more, this tone will be only exaggerated, but it's going to be built on a kernel of truth. That kernel of truth is that what we're saying today. It is abundantly clear there is little interest from most of this council in listening to the citizens, given the hurdles the Orono citizens would need to navigate to be able to speak, while our neighboring city, Long Lake, is planning a second open house. Or the story could be one of open collaborative partnerships like Loretto and Hamill coming together, or perhaps working with Long Lake, Maple Plain, and St. Bonnie. Might Orono shift their position to embrace this trend for the benefit of our citizens? This approach suits Orono best when it comes to financial sense, operational efficiencies, and community goodwill. Over time, the legacy of this council will be revealed as how it navigates this important duty. Thank you.
Brad Erickson, 2485 Independence Road. Where's Mr. Crosby tonight? One full meeting since November. If he's having a difficult time with things, maybe he had to step down. Elected officials have a duty and a responsibility to represent and serve their entire community while upholding democratic values and promoting equality and inclusivity. Engaging with hate groups goes against these very principles and is highly inappropriate and damages the public they swore to serve. Such engagements also undermine the public trust and perpetuate discrimination and prejudice, while contributing to the normalization of hateful ideologies. When election officials are found to be engaging with hate groups, it is imperative for concerned citizens to hold them accountable. Public pressure, media scrutiny, activism can shed a light on these actions and raise awareness about the harm they cause. In specific cases, political parties or other elected officials, pay attention to this one, other elected officials may also take steps to distance themselves from individuals found to be involved with hate groups or engaging in hate speech. It is crucial for communities to foster an environment that rejects hate and intolerance, and elected officials play a vital role in setting an example through their words and actions, and need to be held to a higher standard. Therefore, it is important to support leaders who uphold principles of inclusivity, respect, and equality for all members of the community. Moving on to the chairman of the Minnesota GOP's response to my emails to him regarding the videos you sent me. The Minnesota Republican, he viewed the video. The Minnesota, and that's David Hahn, by the way. The Minnesota Republican Party rejects any comparison between mask mandates and the Holocaust. Because the Holocaust was such a unique and terrible event in human history, I would also like to point out that the Republican Party of Minnesota last year at the state convention adopted a very strong statement condemning anti-Semitism and supporting the state of Israel as the ancient homeland of the Jewish people. He also says he is not familiar with the United Spot, which apparently you're familiar with, and whatever it is. It has nothing to do with the Minnesota GOP, and I'm speaking for, I'm reading him, quote unquote. I do not know Mayor Walsh personally, and I do not know what his political opinions are. As you may know, local elected officials are nonpartisan, and even though the mayor may be a Republican, he was not endorsed to be a mayoral candidate by the Republican Party, has no official position in the party, and does not have authority to speak for the party.
Anybody else who would like to come up tonight?
Your future is sealed in the party. Yeah, you may want to go with an independent party or something. Sealed.
Hi, Janie Delaney, 1315 Woodhill Avenue, and I have one big question. Why won't you listen to us?
Yes. Exactly.
After the experience with the park commission and the open houses, that was just another written comment process. And what it does is it just stifles our voices. By letting multiple people and any resident that wants to get up here and speak, other residents learn from them. They learn about the issue, they learn about what you're thinking, and it's information, we learn. So start listening. How on earth are you going to get people to write in comments? Are you going to use the Civic Send? Are they going to have to go find it at the website? And then that's how they're going to be aware? And then the only people that are signed up for the emails, they're the ones that get it? I mean, it's just not, it's not inclusive. It's not including the entire thing. I would suggest a full mailing like you did for the Christmas tree. That might be a good way to
Yeah, no
every
kidding.
single resident.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, please listen to us. Thank you.
Jay Nygaard, 1386 West Point Road, longtime Warner resident, and I sat up there, actually I think right there and then there as a city councilman myself and as a planning commissioner, so I understand what it's like. I understand the stresses that can be brought upon a family while you're up there and doing things like this. And I can especially, and it's unfortunate that Mr. Crosby's gone, because I really want to talk to two people tonight, although it seems like Matt Johnson probably should be included, given the recent shenanigans going on around here. But I can understand, Mayor Walsh, how stressful this is on you. all this controversy and everything else, and how stressful it is for your family. And what your family is being put through because of your actions and Mr. Crosby's actions up here. And I can only imagine that your family life isn't what it should be. And maybe there comes a time when family becomes more important than what's going on in the community. You know, I can understand that. I've been there. And for that reason, I've chosen to put together, because I guess staff is too busy or whatever, for you and Mr. Crosby, a couple of letters of resignation, complete with Orono letterhead, so that it's simplified for you to do this. Now, it says right here, Orono City Administrator, I, Dennis Walsh, have worked diligently and personally achieved the best I can for the city of Orono. I have also brought controversy beyond what the residents of Orono deserve. Therefore, for the good of Orono and to allow the community a chance to begin healing and moving forward, I hereby resign my position of mayor of Orono effective immediately. And I've got something like that similar here for Mr. Crosby, more related to his Proud Boy affiliations. But you know what? Maybe it is time you all consider moving on. There are communities that are seriously damaged and hurting right now, and I think we heard that tonight from the people. I really think we heard that from the people. And, you know, I know it might be embarrassing to have to do this in front of people or whatever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this here for Mr. Edwards, so you guys, when you have your own time, you can potentially sign these and let everybody start moving forward and healing. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back, close public comments and to the mayor council report. Councilmember Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, start by saying I appreciate hearing all the comments tonight, and as is typically in fashion, with me anyway, when there are direct questions asked during public comment, I intend to answer those. So if I've not made that clear in the past, it's my intention as a council member, when questions are brought before council during public comment, that I plan on emailing or getting a hold of people about those. I don't consider them rhetorical unless it's clear that they are. I want to share, this is going to be, I'm going to talk about fire tonight because that's kind of what our work session and one of our items on the agenda was about tonight. So tonight I do want to focus on fire during my comments and let everyone know here that I had the opportunity last week to attend the Future Fire Services Planning meeting. I want to give a little bit of context about what this meeting is, because between all the different discussions on fire, it's easy to get lost in the weeds about which meeting is for what. So I am doing my best to be very clear when I talk about a certain meeting, what the context of that meeting is. For a small explanation of this group, Future Fire Services Planning Meeting. This group was formed beginning in about 2021, beginning of 2021, and the mission was to find the best path forward for fire services in this area to create a future fire service plan. This is not a public meeting. It's attended by elected officials, fire chiefs, city staff, some paid on-call firefighters in the surrounding communities, and I believe there are maybe 10 or 11 of those communities. Meeting notes are kept, they're not official minutes, and these meeting notes can be shared with the public according to the Medina city administrator who shares them out, and he shared them with me for the last few years. So I went back to January in 2021, and at the first several meetings that this group had right here in the area, the state fire marshal's office was present, and he acted as a guide in the first few of those meetings to be a resource for cities, because we're not the only one who are grappling with the issues of fire service and where to go with their services into the future. Something that caught my eye in one of those first meetings was this. There are too many fire departments in the state of Minnesota. So other districts were already in the process of merging back in 2021, and that trend is continuing today. Hamel and Loretto just merged to form the Western Suburban Fire District, and in fact, their new fire chief of that district, Western Suburban Fire District, again, that's the combination of Hamel and Loretto. Chief Jeff Luer, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, will be the full-time chief for this newly formed district. And he was actually in attendance at the meeting last week as well, and gave the opportunity for folks in the room to question him about some of the challenges that he faced in 22 months of forming a new fire district. So the relevance of this information I want to talk about tonight is this. Back when this group first was formed in January of 21, the mayor of Orono decided at the outset of that meeting that Orono would not be participating in this group. So the notion of a shared district was something, I suppose, that it was believed would not benefit the city of Orono at that time. So there was no needs assessment done at that time, or evaluation, anyway, to my knowledge, that went into that decision. But the decision was made that Orono, as a city, would not participate in the future fire services group. So this is important because one of the first things that was identified as an obstacle in this group for efficient, future-minded service was the participation of elected officials. It's right there in the meeting notes. So what they're wanting to see statewide is folks like myself or other council members or mayors come to the table, be included, ask questions, represent the concerns or the issues they're grappling with, and really come to the table prepared to participate, to not put it off. So since January of 2021, our city administrator, Adam Edwards, has sometimes attended these meetings along with maybe one or two other council members. But we've essentially, as a city, been absent from the table by our own choice as a council. So I personally would like to see that change, so I will be continuing to attend these meetings. The next one is a few months out. So in addition to sharing information and providing updates, this group also, which I think is great, addresses rumors routinely as part of its meeting agenda. So these meetings have become a place for city officials to get together, share information, and dispel any myths or rumors that are circulating in the community. And that's vital because fire services is something that's essential. And when municipalities are at odds with one another for reasons that maybe they don't need to be, it's important to kind of clear the air. So I really do appreciate that that's become standard at those meetings. So Chief Lauer last week gave a wonderful presentation on the 22-month-long process where Hamel and Loretto combined to form this new fire district. And he explained to the folks in the room that the state fire marshal's office, the state auditor, and legislators for the state of Minnesota are actively supporting cities in an effort to reduce duplication, create more efficient practices, coordinate services for effective practice, and also reduce costs. So the state of Minnesota is actively pursuing the notion of shared service going forward. That is the future. So he referenced multiple studies by a group called ESCI, or Emergency Service Consulting, that have been used by municipalities considering changing their fire service. And so there are groups out there, again, to help support municipalities with these very delicate and complex issues. There are also financial incentives available to encourage cities to think more strategically about how they provide services to their residents, and Chief Lauer had a lot more to say to that. I want to tell this council in particular that Chief Lauer really did graciously offer, and he said it several times, that he would be more than happy to come here to Orono City Council and to share the process that he went through, which was not always easy. As he said, I think, I don't want to misquote, but not always butterflies and rainbows, I think is what he said, that he and his city, in the city of Hamel, experienced during that time. It was not easy. So the notion that it's a smooth ride, maybe not, but he feels confident at this point that people are on board, costs are controlled, the service is excellent, and he has a lot to share about that. So I think that's something to consider, is entertaining him here in the future. He did indicate also that giving up, or the notion of giving up control, is truly one of the biggest failures with shared models. And I hear the word control being used a lot as related to fire departments and fire service, and I think it's a word that we need to be mindful in using, because really the future is about moving more nimbly, cutting costs where you can, and really putting funding into certain types of technology or shared service in a way with personnel or maybe duty crews, but not needing to control maybe what always has been the way it always has been. So being nimble is important. So I'm just going to conclude by saying that from my perspective, it's vitally important, and this was talked about many times in future fire service meetings, vitally important that residents are kept up to date and that they have really clear and complete information regarding fire service, because in the absence of light being shown in this process, it can become confusing, divisive, and it's something that I would really like to see change about where we are right now. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens?
So, yes, to continue a little bit on what you're saying and kind of go back to what Jim said. So the devil is in the details with the district. And you were right, you are owed the dollars. You need to see exactly what it's all gonna cost. And I think before we start making accusations about tearing the department off, let's keep in mind, nothing's been decided, right? So you've seen the assessment.
You started a fire department.
You took the fire chief.
Jay.
I mean, geez.
Jay, just please one second.
Well, they quit ignoring facts and lying to the
Jay,
people.
Jay, so.
Hey,
you've
he
seen-
spoke, say his name.
So you've got the fire assessment, and there's gonna be a presentation in 2 weeks, right? Already we provided feedback that we wanna understand what the total cost is, right, for all those options. And we want you to see what the total cost is too, because you're right, you deserve to see what it costs, I wanna know what it costs. And as we dug into the district model, I was a little taken back at what that would cost for Orono residents. And that's why I'm glad that you guys are gonna see those numbers. And we wanna hear from you, does it make sense to add duty crews? Because there'll be a cost there. And that's what we're hoping we hear from you. So come to the meeting, ask questions, reach out in between. I can't speak for everybody up here, but I'm more than willing to meet and answer them. If you've got questions to staff, please ask them. You know, we want to make sure you've got a very robust presentation, right? So you're getting those, we've already shared tonight that some parts weren't clear to Councilmember Benson and I. So we want to make sure we get a very thorough report that gets a lot of those questions answered. On another note, we have been meeting on Hackberry. I talked to staff. The top two concerns that we thought would be going into it are what we're hearing is parking and water. We've got another meeting tomorrow, hoping to get more feedback, and we'll share that broadly with the group. But it's not surprising if you go over there after a rain, it is like a pond, so it's a little swampy. And if you drive by on any night where you've got multiple activities, parking is tough. We did ask the question, it was Gordy Stouffer and I, is it that bad where you want us to cut back on some of the activities there? And that was not something, at least at that one, that they were interested in, but they definitely want those two things fixed. So that's tomorrow at 5 at Hackberry, so. All right.
Councilmember Jensen?
Just to add on to, one of the questions, I think the reason we're asking for the questions is to answer those questions. So when we submit a question and for discussion and provide those answers and getting them in advance puts us in the best position to be able to answer those. The question was brought up of just, how well are we going to advertise this so everybody knows that it's going on and I'm open to suggesting mailing. I mean, we'll have staff decide, but I think, we're taking this amount of time to give people time to know what's occurring and being a part of it. There's been some question about what's the best way to be a part of it. What we're doing and proposing is because that's what we believe is an effective way to get everyone's feedback and make a good quality decision. I've been a part of this fire conversation for a considerable amount of time. I've learned a lot. There's more to learn, but the reason for doing an Orono needs assessment, and that's exactly what it is. What does just Orono need? Once we have a good handle on what we need, and then the other piece of that is, what do we want? What level of service do we want? And I've learned, and you'll learn more about it in the presentation, but the level of coverage is not consistent right now with the size of our community and our response times. And looking into the future, I want them to be better, but we're gonna make that decision, everyone's gonna see the information, but, this is about finding out what Orono needs. Once we know what Orono needs, what we can afford to do, what we want to do, then we understand that, and then we look at what partners want to be a part of that process with us. And I think that is an effective way to approach this subject. And so, there's been, newspaper articles put out there to, give one side of it. We haven't really defended ourselves in the news and in media. We're just staying focused on what our city needs, present that to the city in the best way that we feel achieves what we're trying to achieve, and then make the best decision based on that information. And so, I think we're doing the very best that we can to do the best with this fire. On a separate note, I do want to, Mayor Walsh already mentioned it, but I wanted to also extend a special thanks to Chris Fisher, who is our deputy chief. We have a great police department, and he's a big reason behind that, and he's retiring, and we'll miss him, and I just wanted to extend that appreciation to him. That's all I have.
All right, thanks. All right, well, I guess I'm gonna start with a quote. One of them's police related, because we had two resignations, we had a couple people moving up, and so we got a lot of things going on police, and this is from Barack Obama. It says, understand, our police officers put their lives on the line for us every single day. They've got a tough job to do to maintain public safety and hold accountable those who break the law. So I think that's pretty consistent with the way we all feel, and that we should feel this from our perspective. Couple things coming up here. Got coffee with the mayor at 9 o'clock. I'm sure I'll probably see a few of the current cast of characters there again. See if everybody can behave themselves this time. But that's Wednesday at 9 o'clock, so you'd like to come, we have donuts and we have coffee. And we keep it going for, 30, 40, maybe longest an hour, as long as everything stays rational. This last weekend, I got to spend it in Boise, Idaho. I've never been there before. It's a very beautiful downtown, right on the edge of the mountains. I didn't realize it was on the edge of the mountains. It's nice to be able to walk through downtown where you're safe. You're not worried about anything. It's vibrant. It's amazing. So that goes back to the whole police issue for sure. From a funding perspective, we just, Mr. Huddy, who I think was here, and I think I saw him left, is our new Parks Commissioner, and he was actually on the Parks 10 years ago when there was no budget for the parks and they didn't do anything at the parks. But like everything else, whether it's our infrastructure or our roads or our police department, we are the council that has put together the funding for our parks to be self-sustaining. It was zero when we started. I think we're at $150,000 a year. And our goal is to bump that up about $50,000 a year for the next few years if we can. So they are self-sustaining, so they can continue not only to make the parks be the way that we want them to be and look great, but to continue to do that moving forward. Because it's interesting, I ran into a guy about a couple weeks ago, and he was just bummed that we're not doing more in the parks, and why aren't we doing more? And I said, did you not know we had no budget 6-7 years ago? And he said, I had no idea. Well, this council has done a lot, funded it all, made it happen, and if we move, depending on where we move the fire department, we will do the same thing. I will end with another quote. This is from John F. Kennedy.
Oh my God.
It says, change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. So with that, motion to adjourn.
So wait a minute,
All in favor, say aye.
what about the items you pulled off?
We passed everything.
Yeah.
Did you pull off item number 13?
Yeah, but you were texting on your phone and you missed it.
It's good, it's good.
We passed that. We already passed that.
You missed it.
She just had a question and we solved it and we
You
called
had to
her.
have any consent.
No, we brought it off, we talked about it and passed it.
What you
That was the
talking about?
first
What you
thing.
talking about?
The
She
question,
had questions, I didn't. Where's Mr. Crosby tonight?
she was just trying to understand the
Yeah, you-
process and what it was.
Come on, you'd be gaveling everybody else.
And that's, so when you asked that, that was the first thing we did.
I'm really sorry, is he okay? But I thought you had an issue with it.
She had a question, and she said got answered.
What was the question?
There's just
Oh
a
my
whole
God.
process of the condemnation and how it had to come to us before it went to you, and the stuff that had been promised in the past of the land, and she just wanted to understand the process.
So she understood that.
She voted for it.
I had to deal.
She understood.
Did you follow the laundry wall?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Hey, we got sure.
Where's Mr. Crosby tonight? How's he holding up? We seemed a little peaky last time. Got any plans for running for governor there? Mr. Walsh? Climbing the ladder? Republican ladder? You're not a Republican. You know what? Message is pretty clear. Not with that. Why do we need an officer here? Why didn't they have the Proud Boys protect us like they did down at the governor's mansion? How'd you like to protest like that outside your house? Would you like that? Mr. Crosby can show up and pull his bullshit out of his ass. Would you like that, Mr. Walsh? Right outside your mansion? Big shot.
Something to Matt. Whoa. Copy to
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I just didn't want to get in between, I don't know what part of, we need 13.
Lucille? Victoria? Excuse me?
In this one, we talked about, I mean, the day of the meeting, we are allowing an hour.
No, it wasn't meant to be here.
No.
Yes, that's nice, but rather than being in the middle of.
Yeah, you can bring the question in and be called up and.
But you can walk up here after you hear some voices comment.
Oh, I don't know.
No, you can't. That's exactly what it was designed to do. That's wrong. In so many ways. It is. And I've said that to the mayor for the last two breakfasts for mayors too. That this should be open forum, not written communication.
You're not the only one.
And the communication that whoever suggested that it goes out, the communication from the city is similar to the public lighting of the Christmas tree.
Hey!
Maybe 2 or 3 mailings might be.
Kidding me.
I told you it worked.
Because this is one of the second largest things that you're gonna undertake.
Just didn't make it last time.
Between the public works facility and this, at least on the financial side. And this is of most importance because it affects all of us and it's what government should be, and that's life saving.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important decision. I definitely agree.
But you're not allowing the citizens to participate.
Well, how we're doing, yes, we are, but how we're doing.
Not in a way.
You're doing it wrong. I sat up there on the council, I sat through many of these sessions myself, and you are doing it wrong. You are playing games, shutting down the people, and that's bullshit, period.
I heard you, Jake.
Yeah, and you know what, he said that
You already
too.
started a fire department.
I'm not the only one.
You have to be respectful.
You don't know where you're at.
Because of past experience.
How do you not know how asinine
A mayor to call us a bunch of characters that come to the meetings? Is that respectful of the citizens of this city?
No, it's not.
I'm sorry.
Now, hey, before the Turbine guy signs off, I just gotta let you know, Miss Seals, who I merely wanted to say to, look, you have not earned the right to use my first name. You're gonna call me Mr. Nygaard, ran out of here, ran into the women's bathroom so she didn't have to talk to me, and then went through Orono City Hall to hide from me. Simply because I wanted to speak to Miss Seals and let her know she had no right to use my first name. There you go. That is a character of this council, folks. Turbine guy, signing off.
Great job.
DJ, what kind of shit show you running around here? I know. You better